push Ben to his death, and it is confirmed that the killing wasn't planned. Things just kind of got out of hand, but nevertheless, Ben died at the hands of Cliff. As Cliff wants them to tell his mother that he's sorry and that he loves her, and he begins to let himself go as his mom comes to save her son one last time. Now, the audience has no clue what's going on. We even have an appearance from Matthew Broderick, who's happy that he was fired from the play, as it is curtain time and the team does their fist pump to each other, and they actually take the killers on stage with them, which was a bit odd and a little bit strange, but the honest truth is, without them, the show wouldn't have made it this far, even though Ben had to die to get to this point. As the police take the mother and son into custody, two questions I have for you all in the comments. Do you think that she told her son that she actually did have cancer, and will that actually affect her maybe getting less jail time because she's had stage 4 cancer? But also, do you believe Cliff had remorse in killing Ben? And if so, would it be like a similar situation to Theo, who we know back in season 1, all he got was house arrest for accidentally killing that girl back in season 1, and he kept that secret for years, which to come to think about it, that's so crazy. But anyway, can we see that being a similar treatment to what Cliff did? It was an accident. Maybe he'll get less time. Or maybe he'll end up on house arrest like Theo. As we end the episode with Oliver reading Maxine's review, and as it turns out, even though all the craziness and the death surrounding this play, she gave them a positive review. As Loretta and Oliver are back at the piano and they thank each other for never giving up on one another, as Dickie lets Loretta know that there are 2 offers waiting for her in LA. Now obviously this is the moment she's been waiting for her whole career, but she's not sure if she wants to take it because that would mean she would have to leave Oliver. But he encourages her to go, and it's kind of implied that he's going to probably occasionally pay visits to her while she's out in LA. Meanwhile, will Mabel be on a flight to LA? As she tells Talbert the same thing, basically, that she's going to stay in New York City and she's going to unstick herself, but she'll be willing to pay him a visit every now and then. As Zaz arrives with beers to celebrate, she makes a joke.
Who knows? Have I made copies of all your keys? Like I said, who knows?
Which I don't think was a joke. More on that later, as she tells Charles that she's got something sensitive and important to tell him.
I got something I need to talk to you about when you get a sec, huh? It's a little sensitive.
Let's circle that for a second. As Charles is headed to his apartment to get more drinks to celebrate, he gets a non-romantic text from Joy about Scott Bakula. Cut to seeing Charles in his apartment, and bang, a shot comes through the glass and it hits him in the chest. Now we're led to believe that Charles is dead. I want you all to take a quick look at this clip from my breakdown of episode 6. But Mabel dismisses that and she won't allow it, and boom, out of nowhere, 2 sandbags fall and almost kills Charles. Which this show is telling us that something bad might be happening to our Charles, guys, because go back to last season when they had to fake his death in the finale. You think about the last episode, Zaz telling him that some people wish that he died instead of for Ben. I know Oliver's the one with the heart issue right now, but what if they're setting up that Charles might not make it to the end of this season? As you all can see, they have been hinting at this very moment for a little bit now, as we cut to them wondering what's taking Charles so long, as it is revealed that it wasn't Charles, but it was Zaz who was upstairs and has been shot in the chest. You see Zaz is bleeding out, and she uses the blood on her fingers to maybe write out an important thing that she wanted to tell Charles, or maybe she already knew who this was and she was telling him who it was. And I think what she was writing was a particular letter that we'll talk about here in a second as we end this 3rd and final season of what? But wait, hold on 1 second. As Charles isn't the only one to celebrate today, we have to celebrate, ladies and gentlemen, because Only Murders in the Building has officially been greenlit for season 4. First, let's get into my thoughts on the finale, the season overall, and then wrapping up with my predictions of season 4. Now I'm gonna get straight to my thoughts on the finale. Now, I love the show, obviously, hence I've covered every episode since the very beginning, but in my humble opinion, every finale has been underwhelming when it comes to the big reveal. Now, you can watch my previous breakdowns on the finale, and yes, I've gotten most of the reveals like 90% right, which isn't my issue with these finales. My issue is I feel like the execution of the big moments just feels so underwhelming. I'm even thinking about the Dickie and Loretta moment where to me it didn't have the emotional punch I was hoping for. So as far as my just general opinion and thoughts and review of the finale, it's on par with the previous 2, which in my eyes have just been okay finales. Now, season overall, I'm going to get this out of the way. All the performances across the board were great. Now, focusing on the characters, I felt the development of Oliver was the best out of all the main characters this season. He definitely got the chance to have a successful play while falling in love, while almost dying in the process. And all of the Oliver stuff just really was solid to me, even though I will admit the heart scare was a little bit of a plot device versus like an actual scare. Now, that leads us to Charles, who him finding love but ultimately messing it up kind of lines up with Charles, but him overcoming his anxieties and overcoming his insecurities and nailing that song was a pretty solid arc for this character this season. Now, I'm a big Mabel fan, but to me, she got the short end of the stick this season. She started and ended the season in the same place. She still has no place to call home, nor does she know who she wants to be. Now, of course, she doesn't have to know that stuff, but it seemed like the show was setting it up, but they really didn't have a payoff. The whole Cinda moment to her leading to hosting one episode of the show, and again, big fan of the character, love the actress Selena Gomez, but the writing and the story for the character to me was very lacking. The new characters were a huge improvement from last season. Loretta being played by the incredible Meryl Streep, and of course Ben being played by Paul Rudd. They were excellent in their roles, and I thought that they were just great additions, especially when you look at the new additions from last season. But Talbert, let's talk about him. I like the actor, but to me, besides maybe Oscar, all of Mabel's love interests have been just red herrings and have somewhat affected Mabel's arc in a negative way in my eyes. So I kind of felt like, I won't say that he was pointless, because as I'll get into now, I do find it interesting that if we do see Talbert and Loretta back in LA, maybe this is a way to have our characters playing in like a new sandbox, and we can see those characters kind of going between Los Angeles and New York. That would be a pretty cool twist. Let me know what you all think about that. And I'll wrap up my final thoughts of this season with saying it hurt my heart that Detective Williams wasn't more in the show, and I hope that she is more involved come next season. But overall, the chemistry between Mabel, Charles, and Oliver remained to be undefeated. Paul Rudd and Meryl Streep were great new additions. There were a lot of funny, memorable moments, and I will say, the musical aspect this season was flat out phenomenal. The production, the songs, and of course the story being so important to this season, which leads me to my overall ranking. I gotta say, season 1 is still my favorite season. Then I will put season 3 as my number 2, and then coming in last place would be season 2. So go ahead and share your thoughts of the season as a whole, what worked, what didn't work, your thoughts on the finale, and also share your rankings in the comments below. So let's get to the big thing of this finale, which is who killed Zaz. Now, I could be wrong, but was she trying to write out the letter J with her blood on the floor? But let's take it back and let's focus on episodes 5 and 6 of the season. If you all recall, Zaz told Charles that people wish that he died instead of for Ben. Follow that with episode 6 when we saw almost 3 sandbags almost kill Charles. Of course, we can say the sandbags were Jerry because he was doing that whole the theater is haunted thing, but also remember that Charles was stuck and almost died in the closet in episode 6 as well. Now, eventually he made his way out of the closet, and of course we can say that's all a coincidence, but we can also say maybe that was the killer playing with Charles. But I don't think so. I think it was all leading to this very moment where Zaz was shot instead of for Charles. But the question remains, who would want to kill him? Now, I'll be the first one to admit, I love this team. I think they're great, but I am a product of the Game of Thrones method, which is killing their main characters. I personally believe that if they would have killed Charles, that would have been a huge thing for the show leading into season 4, and we don't know if season 4 is the last one or if season 5 is the last one. Who knows at this point? But let's just say this. If they would have killed Charles leading to season 4, that would have been a great way of Mabel and Oliver trying to figure out who killed their best friend. That would have been so interesting to me, but obviously that didn't happen. But that doesn't mean that come the end of season 4, they kill one of the main characters, and that could be an entry into a season 5. But let me know if you guys think they should have killed Charles, or are you okay with the end result? Now, getting back to the whole question, who would want to kill the wonderful Charles? Well, I would like to remind you all, he has a lot of beef with people. We saw this just this season alone, that Charles had beef with Ben, dating back to when he was a kid and got Ben fired, to even the conversation with him and Matthew Broderick. So it's not hard to imagine that someone would want him dead. Now, obviously going back to my whole maybe Zaz was writing out the letter J, let's talk about those J's, and I'm referring to Jan and Joy. Which I'll just say, I don't think it was neither one of them, but let's just kind of play with that card, and let's start off with Jan. Now, we know that her and Zaz were in a relationship. We don't know the details of that relationship, but we do know Jan was in jail, so I don't think she would be able to shoot him from her prison cell. So let's talk about Joy here. While Charles did suspect his fiance to be the killer at one point, which was proven to be wrong, I don't think that would make her want to kill her ex-fiance. But again, I want to point out something. How many times have we heard the name Scott Bakula? Well, I would like to remind you all, we've heard it quite a few times, not only this season, but this dates back all the way to season 1. Those that don't know, Scott Bakula is a well-known actor. He's still very active in the acting game, and I would love to see him quantum leap into the new season. You see what I did there, quantum. Anyway, I would love to see him be a part of the show, especially considering that I think that they will be in Los Angeles as a new location, and who's to say that Scott Bakula or any other big celebrities can make a cameo, and I think that would be kind of nice and interesting and kind of a new kind of flavor to the show if we go to a location, and also meeting Scott Bakula, who seems to be a big rivalry for our character Charles. But then there's the big obvious thing, maybe it was Zaz that was meant to be killed and not Charles. Again, her telling him she's got something sensitive to tell him. We know Charles normally is the one to bail people out with money, as we saw in this finale with him bailing out Loretta. So it wouldn't be hard to make up the scenario where maybe in the past Charles has helped out Zaz financially and got her out of trouble, and maybe he agreed to doing this again, and that's why Zaz was going upstairs to celebrate, like, thank you Charles for helping me, whatever this situation is, but unfortunately it was too late and it ended up getting her killed. See on the screen now, consider liking this video, leaving your thoughts in the comments, share this video to anyone and everyone you know that loves talking about the show just as much as we do, and if you're interested, consider subscribing to the channel, checking out my latest reviews. You all are amazing, stay safe, and I'll catch you all on the next video.